It is recording now, and we will be sure to post that. So we'll go over today, some of the modeling, see how far everyone's got, and then I'll show you how to actually make the car roll, and you can actually animate it rolling. So, okay. I'm going to give everyone a few more minutes, and then we'll go ahead and get started officially. I will be right back.
You're muted.
Yeah, I'm just giving you a few more minutes for, I guess, usually a couple of people show up, but I guess we can go ahead and start. So let's see. Matthew, have you had a chance to work on Blender at all? Have you had a chance to work on your car?
Me?
Yeah.
Um, After the class, I didn't. During the class, I worked on the car.
Okay. Okay. Hello, Jaden. How are you? Have you had a chance to work on any of the 3D modeling at all?
No.
Okay. Okay. So let's see. Does anyone remember where we left off? Okay. Okay. If I remember right, we didn't have wheels on the car yet or anything else like that. So today, what we'll do is I'll show you how to complete the model. And as you can see, I made a few extra cars just to kind of show how quickly we can make these. And then what we'll do is we'll also make the wheels and tires, but I'll also show you how to make the car roll. So having the wheels roll along with the car. Okay. So the first thing, if I remember right, we'll go ahead and make the wheels and tires. So what we'll do is If you're in Blender, well, let me know when you have Blender up. Who all has Blender up right now? Okay, good. Okay. So we will start off with a cylinder, like so. And what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it 90 degrees on the y-axis, indicated by our green line. We'll scale it on the x-axis, so hit S for scale, X to constrain the axis, and we'll bring it in just a little bit, like so. Next, what we'll do is we'll start editing the actual geometry. So we'll hit Tab to edit the geometry. And in polygon mode, we'll select this first polygon, and we'll hit B for bevel. Oh, sorry, no, Control B. And we'll bring it in just a little bit, like so. And what you'll see is, you might not see it immediately, where you see this bevel option here, it might be minimized. So in the lower window where it says bevel, you'll click on that, and you'll see these options. Now the option we want to edit is called segments. And you'll see what happens is, where you see we have one piece of geometry that goes from the top of the cylinder to the cylinder cap here. And we add more, what that does is it starts to actually round out that geometry. So we'll add a few segments to that. Then what we'll do is we'll take our geometry cap, the cylinder cap, we'll do I for insert, and we'll bring it in a little bit further down. That way our tire has some depth. We'll do another insert and bring it down just a little bit, and then we'll move it inside like so. Next, what we'll do is we'll extrude it. So E for extrude, bring it out just a little bit, not a whole lot. I for insert, and then we'll extrude it in like this. Then we'll insert it again. And we'll extrude it out. And now what we want to do is we'll extrude it one more time. And this way we can give it some spokes. You can leave it solid if you want, that's up to you. But if we want to add just a little more to it, we'll add just a little extra. So say every 2, we'll select 2. And we'll come around, just count them off. I think I have this counted right. Well, I'm off 1. That's all right. I should have counted my geometry beforehand. I've got a little extra space there, but that's fine for our learning purposes. We're okay. And then what we'll do is we will, see, I remember where that tool is. It should be extrude faces along normals, and we'll bring it out. And now you've got spokes on a wheel with a tire. And that's kind of a rough wheel. If I plan this out, you can actually tell your cylinder how many polygons you want. That way you can count out an even number. So once we have this, we need to also round out the other side. So again, we'll Control B for bevel. You can see it kept the last setting I had last time. And I'm not too worried about the inside because we have the outside and that's really all we're going to see. So we'll just leave that alone. Tab, and now we have our wheel. Now if we want to, now obviously we need to add some color to this. So we'll go back in, we'll do Object, Shade Smooth. And where this little green triangle with the little green squares around it, we'll click on that, and where it says under Normals, Auto Smooth, we'll click Auto Smooth. Next, we're going to texture this. So in our material properties, we'll say New. We'll call it, over here in this window, we'll call it Tires. And we'll give it a color, like a dark gray, almost like a tire material. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to select the rim. So we'll select this first part right here and we'll hit Control plus. You'll keep hitting plus until you get the geometry you want to create that material for is selected. So we'll come over here, we'll add a new material, new, wheel. We'll assign that a texture also. And now you have tires and wheels. Like so. Now to make it a little more realistic, we can add what's called a metallic to it. That makes it reflective. And that way you can see the reflection in the wheel. And you also see the tire. Like so. Any questions so far? Is that simple enough to follow along? Okay. So now that we have that, back, and we have all of our, and we'll go into lighting and everything else in a minute. So let's go to our car, not this one. So next we'll create the fenders, or these round pieces here that go around the wheel. Very simple again. It's another cylinder. And you can see how we're just taking all these basic shapes and turning it into something, kind of neat. So what we're doing is we're going to make another cylinder, Shift A, choose cylinder. Again, we're going to rotate it on the 90 on the y-axis, like so. Let me see. Now what we're going to do is I'll line it up over the wheel. Let me hide all this so it doesn't look cluttered. And what I'll do is I'll go into wireframe mode so I can see it better. I'm going to G for grab. I'm going to line it up over the wheel as close as I can. So next, I'm going to pull this out to the edge. Now we're going to start to actually shape that fender. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to edit mode. We'll edit our polygon. We're going to scale it down. So if I come over here to the side view, we'll scale it. And then we're going to move it in to be just by the wheel. You can pull it outside, inside, it's up to you. Next, what we're going to do is we need to square off that edge just a little bit. So we'll do an insert, I for insert. And we're going to do the same thing for the other side of this geometry. So if you look for the midpoint on the back end, we'll also do an I for insert. And what we're going to do is we're going to isolate this really quickly because it's a bit much to look at with the car in view. So to isolate it, we're going to do a Shift H, and that will isolate the object. We're going to go back in to edit mode by hitting tab. Now what we're going to do is what's called a bridge. And this is where we actually create a hole, but we keep our geometry lined up nice and neat. So we'll select each piece of geometry here. And what we're going to do is, if you hit space bar and you type in bridge, it'll say bridge edge loops. And now you've got a hole. This is your fender. And let me see really quickly, just in case it's not easily findable on your menu. I'm used to using the shortcut, so I'm not used to using the looking for bridge. Oh, here it is, under edge, bridge edge loops, right under bevel edges. So now that we have that, what we'll do is we'll show our car. That's not the one. And what I'm going to do is we're going to line this up. We have it where we want it, but now it's round. We need to cut it off. So we need to do what's called a Boolean. And this is where we're going to actually start to actually cut our geometry. So we're going to do Shift A. We're going to create a cube. We're going to bring it over. We're going to bring it down and line it up with the bottom of our vehicle. We're going to scale it on the Y. And we're going to bring it over like this. Now what we're going to do is we're going to cut this geometry. So we're going to select our fender. We're going to come over here to the small wrench, which is our modifier. We're going to add a modifier, Boolean. It's very important under the operation is called difference. So this is we're actually cutting away geometry. The other options are intersect, which is where we combine the geometry as one, and intersect, where we actually cut each piece of geometry, but it maintains what's there. So the idea for us is that we want to take away. So we're going to have difference. And where it says object, this little eyedropper, we're going to select the eyedropper. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to select the cube. And now it's not obvious what happened there, but we'll hit apply. And now the cube we can simply delete. What you'll see is now you have a fender. We can take that fender and we can do an object, shade smooth. Again, to our data properties and auto smooth. And now we have a fender. Now the next thing to do is to mirror that so that it's on all four corners of the vehicle. To do that, we're going to go back to our modifier. We're going to add a modifier, mirror. And where it says mirror object, again, select the object, use eyedropper and select the car. And now you'll see the first thing it's done is that it has mirrored it on the other side of the vehicle. We're going to hit apply. And what we're going to do is we're going to simply duplicate. Right click to drop the object, and then we'll just use our move tool to move it over the other wheels on the front end. And now you've got fenders for your car. So next, we've modeled our tires. You've modeled your fender. You essentially got your car ready to go. Next part is going to be to actually, let's make the car roll. That way we can actually start animating this car. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a parent-child relationship for these objects. So the first thing to do, well, before I say that, does anyone have any questions before we get into the animation portion of this? Okay. So in order to make this car actually move, hold on. Let me fix the interface so you can see everything that I'm going to do. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create what's called a null object, or what Blender calls an empty object. So Shift A again. We're going to create it empty, and you can pick any one of these. It doesn't matter which one. Let's say you can pick a circle if you want. So you'll have your circle, and you want to put that just above your car. That way it's easily selectable and easy to move. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to select the car, each wheel that we've duplicated, and then we're going to select our empty object. Make sure that the empty object is selected orange, or whatever the primary color is in the default interface. That's very important because that tells me that that's the primary object we're going to parent to. And what we're going to do is we're going to do a parent. So we're going to do a Control P, and you're going to select object. And then what happens is it should look like this. You'll have your empty object, and then you'll have each item that you've created fall underneath the empty object. Let me know as soon as you have that completed. Then we can move on to the next portion. If you're having any issues, please let me know. Okay, so has everyone been able to parent their tires to the empty object yet? No. Okay, so Jaden, what is the problem you're having?
Um, I don't know how to attach. I can't attach it to there.
Oh, to the parent object?
Yes.
Okay, so do you have the car and the 4 tires all selected along with the empty object?
No.
Okay, so you need to select the car and all the tires first.
Okay.
So you'll select one and you hold down Shift and you'll select all the other objects.
Okay.
Then you'll select the empty object last. Hold Shift down and you'll select that object.
Okay.
So do you have everything selected?
Yes.
Okay, next you want to type Control P and then your parent object should come up and you want to select object.
Okay.
Okay. Is it working for you?
Yeah, I attached it.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. Okay, so everyone else, Mackenzie, Matthew, have you guys been able to do it also?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
okay. Jaden Flores, have you been able to? Yes. Okay, perfect. So now let's make it roll. So in order to make this actually roll with the tires to the car, that way we have, that way our car can actually animate. We have to generate what's called a variable. Now, we're not going to get too much into variables. We're just going to, because this is built in, this is simple to do. So we're not going to get into the complexity of the variables because that's a whole other set of math. But the first thing we want to do is we want to add, well, here, let me delete this. So here we are. We have a wheel selected. And where it says rotation on the X, here, I can do it in the property window. It's a little easier. Let me zero that out. Where it says rotation on, let me go to 0. Sorry. And where it says rotation on the X, what we want to do is we want to call this add driver. Now, the next thing we want to do is we have to create what's called a mathematical expression. And because we're tying this to how fast our empty object travels, it's already kind of built in for us. So where it says expression, VAR plus 0.0, easily, all we want to do is we just want to back off to the VAR. And in front of that, we're going to hit -2 star, or, for times. And the object we're going to pick is our empty object that we had just created. So now when we move this, oh, that's not the correct one, this one. Is that correct? Edit driver. There we go. Well, let me see, what did I do wrong? Let me check it. Oh, I forgot to maintain the location. So when we come over here, we edit our driver. What's going on here? Okay. In the type, we want to use the Y location. So now when we move our object, our wheels move also. Sorry for the confusion. Let me run through it one more time. So let me delete that driver. 0 back. So what we're going to do is we're going to add a driver. And in our mathematical expression, we're going to only keep the variable in here. We're going to do -2 times that variable. We're going to pick the object that is our parent object, so empty. And because we're moving front to back on this is a very simple setup to have wheels rolling. We're going to use the Y location because we're moving forward to backward. Once that's set, the car should roll, the wheels should roll along with the vehicle. Now, once we've done that, we can actually start setting keyframes. So let me clear some keyframes. So since you guys are starting here, what you can do is over this, let me sort this out. We can right click, insert keyframe. And in our timeline, we'll move the timeline over however many frames you want. We'll move the car up. And we'll insert another keyframe. And now you have your first animation. Is anyone having issues doing this so far? Or who's got it going so far? Has everyone been able to animate the car? Feel free to unmute and speak up. I need to know. Jaden, either one of you guys, have you guys been successful in animating? Okay, so yes. Matthew? Mackenzie?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, good. So now you've got your first animation. So now what we can do is we can take a little time and we can make it look a little cooler. And what we'll do is we'll add a few lights, we'll add a floor. So the first thing we'll do is we'll do Shift A, Mesh, Plane, and we'll scale it up. And what I'll do is I'll come over here to the viewport shading and I'll click on that. And what that gives me is that's the floor to actually for the car to sit on. So I'll give that a shader, bring that down just a little bit, pull that roughness down, and you can see that there's a reflection on the floor also. Well, let me turn off the backlight there. So in your world properties, let me see. In your shading properties here, or world properties is what they call it here, you have the background and you have color. So you can add a little more brightness to it if you want. You have your floor, and you can adjust the strength, make it brighter or darker if you want. So there's our car over a floor. The next thing we want to do is we want to add a light, and it should come with a light already by default. And initially that starts out as a sunlight, I believe. Or that's what I have here, but we can make our own. So if I delete this light out of here first, I'll turn this down so you guys kind of get an idea of how the lights work. Let's put a light in here first. Shift A, create a light, and we'll create a point light. I'll move this up just a little bit, and you can see it's starting to show off the car. And you notice the further away, the less light it affects. So what we want to do is we want to increase the power and the radius of this light. And you see now I'm highlighting the fender just a little bit. We can duplicate it. Just move it anywhere we want. And you see now we have two lights going. So next what I'll do is I'll increase the strength just a little bit so we can get a little more light showing. Now there are other ways to create light, and we can create light using actual geometry. So if I want to delete these lights, the next thing we can do is we can use geometry. So we'll turn down the strength here. We do Control A, Mesh, Plane. But this time we're going to scale it on the Y. Create a long light. And we're going to come over here to the shader properties, and we're going to create a new, but where it says principled BSDF, we'll create an emission. Now you see how that immediately turned white? So we'll move this just above the car. We'll scale on the X just a little bit. And we'll increase the strength. Now we'll duplicate it. And we'll rotate it along the Y. And we'll bring that down. And it creates a little bit more dramatic feel for the car. Then we can take our floor and we can bring that up just a little bit. We'll create a little roughness. And for our world properties, we'll bring that strength up just a touch. And now we're lighting with geometry. Now for a little bit more accurate look, but it takes a little more horsepower, where it says in your render properties, where it says EV, you can use something called cycles. And now you can see how that looks compared to EV. Now, cycles is a whole other thing. We're generally going to concentrate on using EV because it just uses less resources and it's a lot faster to render for a lot of things that we're going to do. But you're more than welcome to play with this, and you can see how it creates a much more realistic look. So that kind of gives us a general overview of modeling, some of the basic tasks of lighting, rendering. Are there any questions so far?
You okay?
Okay, Jaden, well, you have a great day. We're going to end this today anyway. Only 30 minutes, but I think this is a good spot to leave this at. If you guys have any other questions, please try and find a little bit of time to play with the lighting and some of the rendering, you know. Yes, Mackenzie, I will post this as soon as I can. Probably later tonight, I'll post it. Okay? All right, well, you guys have a great evening. And if you have any questions, go ahead and post them in Classroom, and I will answer them as fast as I can. All right. Have a good evening. Bye.
Hey, Mr. Vogel. I
Yeah.
don't know how the recordings, let's say stop the recording, where it goes. If it goes to mine or your email address,